Hello everyone, welcome to today's stream. I'm Hugh Brown with Liftoff Global Network, and today we are going to be looking at our jury highlights for the Sydney and Melbourne film festivals. This is my third or fourth time doing a stream like this now. They all kind of merge into one, really. It's hard to keep track. But for those of you who have seen these previously, welcome back. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, essentially what we're going to be doing is taking a selection of films that have been doing well amongst our jury members. We're just going to be examining what it is about them that the jury is liking. I've managed to see all of them myself. I hope that everyone watching has managed to have a glimpse of them too. We're essentially just going to be looking at them bit by bit and just see what is it that makes them so special to our jury, you know. Claire is going to be in the chat room today, so if you have any outstanding questions or perhaps you'd like to shout out a fellow filmmaker, or if you're a filmmaker behind one of the films we're talking about, if you want to make yourself known, then please go right ahead. Don't be shy. And we're on hand to answer any questions and say hi back, of course. And obviously, if you like this stream, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, because then you can get notified whenever we go live in the future. Also, check out Liftoff's social media platforms such as Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, the Liftoff Global Network website. And if you're on the hub, there's always activity going on there. So yeah, keep in touch with that. Now, we're going to be doing something a little bit different to start with. We actually have some acceptance speeches from some winners from our Paris Film Festival. We're just going to be playing those now quickly before we get started. Here they are.
Hi Liftoff, I'm Kilian Thomas, director of Alexan. My short film won a Best Short Film Award at Paris Liftoff Film Festival, and thanks for that. The intention behind this sci-fi romance was to explore a possible future of our society using a vision of the core problem of the woman's condition that is not that modern. You know, I love science fiction, especially when it gives a reflection on our society, on our way of life. I'm actually writing a new short on it in the same way. You can follow me on my social media to keep in touch with that. You can watch the film on my website, kilianthomas.com. Hope you will enjoy it. Bye, Liftoff.
Hi Liftoff, my name is Theodor Gimeno. I'm 20 years old and I'm the writer and director of The Evening Word, a feature film that won the Audience Choice Award this year at the 2021 Paris Liftoff Film Festival. The Evening Word is my first feature film. It's a film about a young man in his apartment becoming confronted with the memories of a past relationship he used to have. The film is currently on the festival run, so it's not available anywhere online just yet. But hopefully after that, I will release it for everyone to see as soon as possible. I'm also currently working on my second feature film, which will be shot in December and at the start of January, which is very exciting. And I'm also finishing my third and final year of undergraduate study for film studies at university.
Hi Liftoff, I'm Lee Williamson, director of SNOV (Swim), and we recently won the Audience Choice Award in the Paris Liftoff Film Festival. We were in lockdown with a 2-kilometre restriction, and we felt trapped and constricted as to what we could do. So we needed to make something just to alleviate our mental stress, as well as being trapped in the house with the kids, as you can hear behind me. At the moment we're working on a documentary which should hopefully help us on our way to Hollywood. We screened in Pinewood a couple of weeks ago, and now we're just looking to gather the funds from different bodies, local enterprise, local councils, to try and help fund our way over to the Hollywood screening in Raleigh Studios, Los Angeles, as part of the Liftoff network. Our film can currently be seen in the Sydney Melbourne Liftoff Film Festival. Next up it's London. So times are good, times are exciting. Over and above that, I think we'll keep the film in the festival circuit until we gather the funds required for the Hollywood trip. Thank you, and Merry Christmas.
Thank you very much to our Paris filmmakers for sending those acceptance speeches in. Congratulations on your awards. We actually have another stream coming up today where we're going to be discussing a couple of films that were talked about previously there. But back to Sydney and Melbourne for now. Let's take a look at the jury highlights for Sydney and Melbourne. The first one we're going to be looking at is a new voice short. It's called Animal Work, directed by Zach Marinan. The logline reads as such: An anxious man goes to a group therapy session. However, the session takes a strange and unexpected turn when the other attendees get in touch with their wild sides. I love that logline even more so now that I've seen the actual film and I know what it entails. I'm not going to go into too much detail. I say that a lot, but yeah, it's just as relevant here as it is for any other films that I've said that for. The director's statement also complements the logline quite nicely. I'm drawn to stories that have simple plots and complex characters. Comedies that have serious elements and dramas that don't take themselves too seriously. That last little sentence there, I think, very much sums up how I felt about the film, is that I think it's a great balance of humour and sincerity. I work with someone at the moment who says that that is the key, the essential ingredient to making a good film. And with an example like this, yep, I don't think it could be more true, is that you're never really sure what kind of the story is really, or the genre, until it kind of moves forward. It kind of stays in a very relaxed state. And then, of course, everything starts to come together and you realise that it's this balance of a really, really sincere and serious topic with a little bit of heart to it. Those kind of films are always a joy to watch. I will say that it does have a twist ending of sorts, which, again, I'm not going to spoil today. And I use twist with inverted commas because it's interesting. It's so unexpected, but it's such a satisfying payoff. And it doesn't derail the story, I think, is the thing. Sometimes with twist endings, they can go either way. They're either really, really clever and just fit just right, or it just kind of throws off everything. We could sit here all day and talk about the many examples I could think of in that regard. But from a screenwriting point of view, this ending was really, really well pulled off. And it just drives home that essential trait of animal work, which is the balance of sincerity and humour. I hope everyone gets a chance to watch it. The next film is the judges select. It's called Enough, directed by Apostolos Vassiliadis. The logline is, during a life drawing class, the art model struggles with determining who claims ownership of her body. This one hit me like a ton of bricks, honestly. Just sort of looking at the logline before going in, I wasn't really sure, how that logline would be, brought to the screen, brought to action. Yeah, it's a real eye-opener, honestly. The director's statement reads as such: not often in film has a female's perspective explored the various and intimate obstacles that occur when a young female willingly exposes herself nude in a room full of people because it's her profession to be drawn by her audience. This story hits the depth of the psychological, cultural, and societal impact of body shaming, female sexism, and ingrained prejudice. We ask when watching this movie to give oneself the insight and personal reflection of where we draw the line of exploitation. I couldn't agree with that statement more. As I say, it very much catches you off guard when you go in there because, it's a very, topical discussion that still persists to this day. And it's one that obviously has to be had. And when it's explored through the medium of film, that's always really interesting. And it's kind of the best way to drive the point home because, it's a visual, emotional response, really, if that makes sense. So the writer is also the star of this film, Gabriella Manois Carlson, and she says that we consider this movie both urgent and enlightening, and it couldn't be a better pairing of words, in my opinion. Just a really excellent film that communicates the inner anxiety and unintended shame when exposing oneself. And it's a call to action to remove the stigma towards the profession and allow women to reclaim their bodies. Again, as I say, a very topical film. I really hope everyone gets a chance to see this one too. We're going to be looking at a trendsetter now called Ex-Humans, directed by Mariana Porto. Logline is, in the new Brazilian Empire, a young man and a woman plan the survival of humankind. I hate to sound biased, but when you use the words dystopian and science fiction, you kind of have my full attention. It's just such a ripe, juicy genre that's just, perfect for imaginative storytelling. You can take it in any number of directions. And again, dystopia, the key word, location and environment is quite key to realizing that vision. In some ways, the best way to tell dystopian fiction is through kind of prose or novels, see Orwell's 1984, because it's quite hard to realize, such a dark world on screen without kind of almost diminishing its impact. But it's certainly not the case with Ex-Humans. As far as I can tell, it was shot on location somewhere in Brazil. And just, an excellent colour palette complements this, what I call scrap metal aesthetic. It's kind of in the vein of a Neil Blomkamp film, sort of like Chappie or District 9, just that sort of rusty kind of, not so much industrial, just, yeah, it's like a giant junkyard. It just complements the dystopia so well and the situation that the two characters are in. So if you enjoyed this one, definitely check out Blomkamp stuff for comparison, like Chappie, Elysium, District 9. And the plot it's kind of complex and interesting because it doesn't... It's quite... what's the word I'm looking for? Almost subliminal in a way. It's not really... it's a straightforward narrative, but it's very up to interpretation. It doesn't really... it lets the audience figure out what the meaning behind it was. Just, really interesting stuff there. It's one that you watch and you're thinking about it for sort of the good half hour after you turn it off. Another film that springs to mind when I was watching this, it's an unfinished Polish science fiction film called On the Silver Globe, which popped up on my radar sort of around the same time that Dune came out. The reason I draw that one with this one is because in Ex-Humans, there's the slightest tint of religious imagery almost. There's just these stunning images of sort of a crown of thorns type figure. I don't know if this was 100% the director's intention, but it really, for me, just, that On the Silver Globe film instantly popped into my head. It's clear that this director has, a really, really good science fiction vision. I always appreciate that, being a sci-fi fan myself. If there are any sci-fi fans in the audience today or in the chat room, then yeah, check this one out. This isn't one to be missed. Finally, we're going to look at a feature. This is a documentary called Shadows in the Box, directed by Veneto. A journey into the aesthetic of a photographer, Shadows in the Box is the exploration of the life and times of mercurial existentialist photographer Thomas Clark. As I've said before on a couple of these streams that I've done previously, documentaries can go either way. You either hook the audience with your subject from the get-go, or within the first 10 minutes, the audience can just decipher, yeah, I don't know why I should be caring about this subject or this individual if it's that kind of documentary. But Thomas Clark is an interesting subject. It's just one of those things. I'm not sure how the director managed to find him, but if I was sitting in a room with this man, I'd probably want to do a documentary on him as well. And I'm terrible at making documentary films myself, but it's interesting the way it opens. There's this very hypnotic black and white cinematography that's a bit like Christopher Nolan's Following. It's just such a striking opening image, which many argue is the key to hooking your audience as well as subjects and everything. It's one of those what I call biographical-esque documentaries as well, is once it really kicks off, it's essentially Thomas Clark, in his own words, taking the audience through his life, through his career. And it's one of those people when you just think, what an extraordinary life. Within the first 10 minutes, he's name-checked going to a Jimi Hendrix concert. Being a Hendrix fan myself, that instantly, pricked up my ears. And layered all throughout the film, as any documentary about a photographer would probably entail, are Thomas Clark's photographs, which are these very, mercurial existentialist photographs, but really, really astonishing images, and they complement the film so well without kind of distracting the audience from sort of Thomas Clark's dialogue, because sometimes I find it, if it's a documentary and someone's delivering a piece of information, and then suddenly there's this image or this video kind of layered on top of that, your mind can't really focus on two things at once, if that makes sense. So sometimes you have to, you're either missing out on the image, listening to the dialogue, or you're missing out on the dialogue, watching the image. But in this case, they just blend so well together, you're almost absorbed in this photography whilst Thomas Clark is explaining the process behind it. Yep, as documentaries go, and about photographers, it's not something I'm an expert on, but this is really one to check out. Really, really enlightening. And obviously, the main takeaway is I want to check out more of Thomas Clark's photography after this. And that is that. We have gone through our jury highlights for Sydney and Melbourne. Thanks very much, everyone, for tuning in, and I will see you later this afternoon for our Paris stream. In the meantime, take care, keep watching those films, and stay safe. Bye-bye now.